Hey guys, welcome back to Canon Cinema. I'm Amanda, otherwise known as AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Today I will be reviewing the new A24 film, Zola. Now, with Zola, I had very high expectations going into this just because I was there on that one night when @_Zolar Moon released her tweet thread at like 11 o'clock at night. The beauty of that tweet thread, and I said this in my written review, was the voice of Zola in those tweets. I could not put my phone down. I was up until 1 o'clock in the morning. I was glued to my screen. I couldn't go to bed. It is one of the most wild nights on Twitter that I've ever spent. And then we all kind of said, my friends and I, because I passed the thread around, and we all said that this could totally be a movie. It was good. Maybe because I had my expectations to be quite high, considering I knew the tone of voice because of the tweet thread. And that is the one thing that didn't quite translate to the movie for me. And I know that there are so many people praising it. There are great aspects of this film. Bravo's direction was incredibly strong. The cinematography was great. There were certain choices made, especially in regards to how women view men and how we perceive them. I thought that was an amazing addition to this film, and how she brought everything to life was also fantastic. It's just that the editing was a bit rough for me. The story didn't flow. It did feel like a series of tweets being put out onto the screen. There were some great emotional moments from Taylour Paige, who is an actual superstar. I adore her. I thought she did an incredible job as Zola, but as her own character. Whereas the Zola that I had in my mind when reading that story, that Twitter thread, was completely different. And she made it her own, and it felt more grounded than what the Twitter thread was originally. There's nothing wrong with that, but for narrative purposes, I completely understand why certain changes had to be made in order to actually adapt it to screen. But Taylour Paige, legit superstar. She had this vulnerability that I just was so interested in while watching. She was very grounded, very reserved. It was more of an internal performance, but her facial expressions, her reactions, made me laugh a couple of times. But there are key emotional moments that Taylour Paige just delivers. On another level, there's a scene towards the end of the film that will stay with you because of Taylour Paige and her performance. So I'm not going to spoil it. It was fantastic the way that she peeled back the layers. She didn't give us too much. She didn't go over the top with it, because you easily could go over the top with a character like this in trying to match what Riley Keough was giving out as Stephanie. Completely just floored me. She was hilarious. It's eye-opening to see that there are women out there like that, clearly because it is based on a true story, but it did work. It did work because they were opposite of each other, and you needed someone who was more grounded, and that's what I thought Taylour Paige really delivered on. To see them play off of each other was interesting to watch, because they both had different perceptions of, sex work. The whole story is that Taylour Paige's Zola is a waitress, and she meets this girl named Stephanie who comes in to her diner. She orders food, and then they actually get into a different conversation about having to earn extra money. Would you be interested in making some extra cash? So obviously Zola's first thought is that it will be stripping, and she does some dancing on the side, she does some stripping on the side, and then other things happen in Tampa Bay, in Florida, and it's a pretty wild 48 hours, like the Twitter thread. So on that, they delivered. There were some really unique moments that you could only see in an A24 film, I feel like. The one thing that I absolutely adored about Zola is the way women look at men. And we don't see that visually on screen at all. We rarely do unless a woman is behind the camera. No offense to men, but literally that's the whole point of this. First of all, she accurately depicts the sex work. She accurately shows what it's like for women to be strippers and to be going on these odd jobs in this particular way, in the way the story went. This is work. There's an athleticism, there's a skill that she presented to all of us. It's not glamorizing any of this. The other sequence that I really, really loved was when Stephanie had to make a certain amount of money with men going to their hotel room and they did the deed with her. It's like a montage. It's a montage of what Zola and Stephanie had to do versus what the men came in to do. And you see the perception of Stephanie and you see it through her eyes that there's X amount of men who are doing stuff and things in front of her, to her, all of that. We see the gaze switch and I just love that. I love that we got to see that in a female perspective, and it's not that wonderful, to be perfectly honest. It's not that great. What women have to see, it's not that great. What women experience, not that great. The other important takeaway, which we should all know, is to never go on a road trip with someone you barely know. That is the one that you just don't do. You don't do that. That is what we learned. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 for me, just because it was a bit slow. It needed to pick up a bit more, but there are some really strong sequences that have stayed with me, clearly, as I've told you. Some beautiful, beautiful shots of Taylour Paige in just showing the female body in the proper way. Like, I just love the way that Bravo showed her in certain images. Like, there was one mirrored sequence where she was trying on different outfits of like, who am I gonna be tonight? Who am I gonna be tonight in regards to being a stripper as her job? Is like, which character, which persona am I putting on tonight? And she had on different outfits, and I thought it was just really beautifully shot. It was so beautiful because, again, it's a job and no one should be ashamed of being a sex worker whatsoever. It's one of the most refreshing films about sex work that I've seen in a very long time. So it takes a different eye to bring that out, to bring that kind of story out, because it's an important thing to actually show. Like, apart from the Zola thread, there's so many things that you can learn and appreciate just by watching this film. The other shout out that I will give is to Coleman Domingo, who rarely gets the credit. He's one of the most underappreciated actors in this industry. He was fantastic. One of the best supporting actor performances I've seen this year. I was just blown away. Every single time he was on screen, everything he said, he just commanded that scene. And I loved him in this. I thought he did an excellent job. So many things happen in Zola. I enjoyed it for what it was. My expectations were high and it hurts me a little bit. I'm not saying that I was disappointed. I was a bit underwhelmed just with the editing and the story structure and how they put everything together. The one thing that I did pick up on halfway through the movie is that when there were certain moments from her Twitter thread on screen, the little chirp noise, that music cue, and how you send the tweet was in the actual scene. You knew it was one of the tweets from Zola, so I thought that was a unique addition as well. The pacing is the only thing that really bothered me throughout this film. The story is fun. It's great to watch. The characters are very colorful, especially Stephanie. Especially Stephanie, one of the most colorful characters I've seen. Taylour Paige is a newcomer, and I hope she gets cast in so many different projects because she deserves it. She knocked it out of the park in this. But the way that they brought the story together just wasn't strong enough for me to praise it as much as I would love to praise it. Again, there's incredible moments because of Bravo's direction and what she wanted to show about sex work and women and the female perspective with men, and I really love that aspect to it. Well guys, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I rated Zola a 3.5 out of 5 on my Letterboxd, so go check that out. I will drop a link to my written review below as well, and you can always find me over at AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. I'll catch you guys next time. Keep watching movies.